Good afternoon, everyone. This is Professor Mukesh Barua, Head Department of Management Studies. So far, in this meeting, around 225 people have joined, and we have with us Professor A.K. Chaturvedi, Director of IIT Roorkee as well. So, sir, at the outset, I would like to thank you for agreeing to deliver inaugural session of Professor C.K. Prahalad Endowment Lecture Series. As many of you would be aware, C.K. Prahalad, he was a professor of corporate strategy at University of Michigan. His name was School of Business. His name is Coimbatore Krishnarao Prasad Prahalad. He actually born in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. He did his BSc degree physics from Lal College, Chennai. He did MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and then later on he went to Harvard Business School to pursue PhD. And his doctoral thesis was on multinational management. He completed PhD in 2.5 years' time. After completing PhD, Professor C.K. Prahalad joined back IIM Ahmedabad as a faculty member. Professor C.K. Prahalad has authored several books. Some of the books are The Core Competence of the Corporation, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, The New Age of Innovation. He has received several honors and awards. Some of them are Lal Bahadur Shastri Award for Contribution to Management and Public Administration, presented by President of India in 1999. He received Padma Bhushan in 2009. In 2009, he has named the world's most influential business thinker on the Thinkers50.com list. Now I request Professor A.K. Chaturvedi, Director IIT Roorkee, to welcome Dr. K.V. Subramanian.
So it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian to this inaugural edition of the C.K. Prahalad Memorial Lecture at IIT Roorkee in the Department of Management Studies. This lecture series exists in every department. That means every department has named it after some iconic figure, whether from the department itself or if it is a new department like Department of Management Studies, they have chosen a national icon after whom they have named the lecture series. The purpose of the lecture series is, of course, that we bring outstanding people like Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian to the campus. And when they come to the campus, then they see the faculty, intermingle with the students. Also see whatever good things are happening in society. And some of this message gets carried back. But unfortunately, due to COVID-19, this part of the lecture series is not possible, because we are unable to have Dr. Subramanian in the campus. But at the same time, we are very thankful that he could spare 1 hour during this very busy schedule to be with us. Personally, I was looking forward to his visit, and the reason is not far to fathom, because when I looked at his CV, it turned out that both he and myself have studied from the same department in the same discipline. And in fact, when he was an undergraduate student, possibly I was a PhD student doing some TA-ship for his labs. So I was hoping that we would spend some time together when he visits. But today it is not happening. Dr. Krishnamurthy, I hope you will find some time later to visit us after this lecture. So with these brief words, I would like to conclude my address, and we all look forward to hearing to Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian.
So before Dr. Subramanian starts his lecture, let me read out his brief CV. So today we have with us an outstanding personality of the country, Dr. Subramanian. As all of us are aware that COVID has affected not only Indian economy but world's economy. One of the projections of World Bank is that the world economy will shrink by 5.2% in this fiscal year. And we also know that during COVID, most of the supply chains are under pressures, most of the jobs are cut, educational institutions are shut, and things are not looking good at this point in time. But I hope that all of us would revive very soon, and our economy would revive even faster than other emerging economies. So before I hand over this session to Professor Krishnamurthy, in brief, let me tell you that Professor Krishnamurthy is the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. He is a leading expert on economic policy, banking and corporate governance, a PhD from Chicago Booth and top-ranking IIT IIM alumnus. He authored the path-breaking economic survey that commends ethical wealth creation for a prosperous India. By integrating India's rich economic and spiritual heritage with modern economic ideas, he advocates ethical wealth creation through a marriage of invisible hand of market with hand of trust. His idea of thalinomics, what a common person pays for a vegetarian or non-vegetarian thali, has been acclaimed as Indian Big Mac Index. The 2019 economic survey, again authored by Dr. Subramanian, laid out the strategic blueprint for India to become $5 trillion economy by generating a virtuous cycle where private investment, wage and employment growth, as well as consumption feed into each other. Dr. Subramanian is on leave from prestigious Indian School of Business, where he is a professor of finance. He has served on several expert committees, including PJ Nayak Committee on Government of Bank for Reserve Bank of India. His research in banking, law and finance, innovation and economic growth, and corporate governance is published in several top-rated journals like the Review of Financial Studies, the Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analysis, and so on. Even while he is still earning his MBA and PhD, he produced award-winning work. Dr. Subramanian's PhD dissertation earned the Evin Marian Kaufman Foundation Dissertation Fellowship, which recognizes the top 15 PhD dissertations across all disciplines every year. He holds a bachelor degree in electrical engineering from IIT Kanpur, one of India's leading engineering schools. In previous academic roles, Dr. Subramanian served as a finance faculty at Coyota Business School at Emory University, US. He has produced several PhD students, and his scholars are faculty at top B schools of the world, including MIT, Kellogg, Berkeley, and so on. Now I would request Dr. Subramanian to start his lecture. Sir, after 30 to 40 minutes of your lecturing, we will have a QA session. All the questions would be asked by our moderator, Swati Agrawal. And after that, we'll have vote of time. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, very much.
So thanks a lot, Professor Barua, for those kind words. Let me say I'm quite humbled to be delivering the inaugural CK Prahalad lecture. As we all recognize, all of us who actually worked in the area of management, CK Prahalad was indeed a huge visionary. And some of his ideas are quite relevant even in today's India, especially when we think about Atmanirbhar Bharat. His idea of the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, which is in some sense was his magnum opus in terms of the quality of the ideas that you talked about, is quite relevant because Indian firms, if you look at a lot of our consumption, typically Indian firms have created products and services primarily catering to the top 25-30% of the demographic in terms of income. Yet, we have a population of almost 137 crore people. And so products and services that can be created for the bottom of the pyramid can really be we all recognize that Atmanirbhar is, implies self-reliance, not self-sufficiency. And a very good example of C.K. Prahalad's idea is seen when we go to villages and towns in India. You go to a pawn shop, you can get a shampoo sachet. 25 years back, if you wanted to buy shampoo, if you're a poor person who wanted to actually get a shampoo, you could only get it in those big bottles. And a typical poor person would not have the cash to be able to, to be able to buy such a large bottle of shampoo. And so the FMCG companies came up with basically this idea of, building it into sachets, and thereby utilizing the fact that the poor also want to consume the same products and services that those at the top of the pyramid consume. And so this is a very good exemplification of C.K. Prahalad's idea of fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. So I must say I'm extremely privileged to be delivering the inaugural lecture in the memory of someone who was so known for path-breaking ideas, and that's something which all of us can take a lot of inspiration from. What I want to briefly talk about, and by the way, Professor Barua, I'm not going to be speaking for 40 minutes. I'll try and keep it shorter, maybe 15-20 minutes at the maximum, and then I'll try and take more questions. What I do want to focus on, because a lot of our students are I think those who are participating are must be from management backgrounds. I will go back about a little more than a little more than 2 decades to my own undergraduate days, and one of the things that used to baffle me about many of my peers was how everybody wanted to leave India and go and settle in the United States. Some of us who were more attuned to staying back in India would call these friends of ours NRAs, NRA for non-resident Americans. So these were people who basically wanted to spend their 4 years, acquiring the engineering degree and then go and settle abroad. The reason I actually bring this particular incident up is because many of us during our own school days, and maybe even our parents and our grandparents' generations, have grown up thinking that at least in the field of economics, in the field of management, etc., India did not rank really well in the Committee of Nations. That most of the ideas relating to economics and and management, etc., have come primarily from the Western world. That's the thought, and that's something which many of us grew up as well. But turns out that that is not really true. While there is no question that a lot of modern economic thought originates from from some of the work of Adam Smith and people thereafter. In India, we've had a wealth of economic thinking as well. If we go and read the literature, and when I say literature implies anything that is in the written word. So literature does not include only the kind of journals that Professor Bakshi was talking about, Review of Financial Studies or a Journal of Finance or a Journal of Financial Economics. That of course is literature, no doubt. But even anything that is written is actually forms part of literature. So Arthashastra by Kautilya is as much literature. Tirukkural written by Saint Tiruvalluvar, in the south is as much literature. The Upanishads are also literature. We can have debate about whether these have any religious connotations or not, but the fact that they are written word implies that they also are part of literature. And it therefore behooves every Indian student of management and economics to also learn to learn the literature that we have inherited. And that is what I set out to do, when I was in the process of writing the economic survey, for the economic survey that got published in January this year. Apart from reading Arthashastra, of Kautilya, by the way, this is just a side comment. Most people think about Kautilya as the Indian Machiavelli, which is not quite true, because we oftentimes colloquially use this word Chanakya Niti whenever you want to actually do something that is not quite straightforward. It's that saying in Hindi, सीधे अंगुली से घी ना निकले तो टेढ़ी अंगुली से निकाल लो. So टेढ़ी अंगुली is what people typically think about Chanakya Niti. But that's a very limited conception of Chanakya. Chanakya, wrote the Arthashastra, and those of you who understand Hindi or Sanskrit would appreciate Arth means basically economic prosperity, and it's one of the four noble goals that humankind is expected to perceive, to pursue as part of, as a human birth: dharma, arth, kam, moksha. And Arth is basically the economic, prosperity. And so, as the name itself suggests, this is a shastra. It's basically a treatise on how to become prosperous, whether it's for an individual or for a nation. If we go and look at some of the research that's been done by George Madison, and this is mentioned in the first chapter of the economic survey. It's the first chart. If you look at the contribution to world GDP among different, by different countries, for 3/4 of known economic history, in other words, till about 1750 AD, India contributed almost 1/3, or sometimes more, of the entire world's GDP. Now, such dominance, which is 3/4 of known economic history, such dominance does not happen just by pure accident. Such dominance happens only through design. And the design is what has been covered in detail in many parts of the traditional literature. Arthashastra is, by Kautilya, is one of those important treatises. In down south, the Tirukkural, which is written by Saint Tiruvalluvar, also has similar ideas. So I would strongly urge all the students of management disciplines to learn modern economic tools, for sure, but at the same time also go and learn about the ideas that were advocated by our earlier thinkers, because I can really foresee a lot of research ideas that can come together by taking those ideas that were advocated in in an Arthashastra or in a Tirukkural, taking that and applying it, and using modern economic methods. Those can lead to very good research studies. So it's a good opportunity for many people to, especially PhD students or scholars, research scholars here, to actually pursue those ideas. So to come back to what I was saying, the reason India was able to dominate the world economy for 3/4 of known economic history wasn't an accident. It was because we enabled the marriage of two key aspects. One is the invisible hand of markets. So while Adam Smith is credited with with this expression, invisible hand of markets, and Kautilya may not have used this particular wording, or neither did Tiruvalluvar use this wording, but the idea that creating markets is the easiest way to generate prosperity was very much there in the so one of the key things that we talked about in the economic survey, which is relevant for policy making today, is to reduce government intervention in the economy. Now, if there is a history to this government intervention that we've had since since independence. We followed the socialistic model for about 5 decades, and within the socialistic model, therefore, we indulged in a lot of government intervention, which really shackles economic enterprise and thereby does not generate enough prosperity. So one of the key things that India needs to do to be able to create wealth is firstly enable markets, at the same time not think about wealth as a inevitable ill, or as a necessary evil. Wealth needs to be thought about as something that is worth pursuing. As I was saying earlier as well, dharma, arth, kama, moksha is actually talked about as the 4 noble human pursuits, of which earth is indeed a noble human pursuit. But it needs to be done in an ethical manner, and this is where ethical wealth creation becomes important. In other words, not if wealth is created by willfully defaulting, so you basically take money from a bank and you don't repay, even though you have the ability to repay, that is not ethical wealth creation. Ethical wealth creation can be done by, for instance, the ideas that C.K. Prahalad advocated, which is identify opportunities at the bottom of the pyramid, provide them products and services that they indeed are hungry for, and thereby create wealth in the process. So the first part is the hand of market. The second key part is also the hand of trust. So it's the marriage of the hand of markets with the hand of trust. That is what is really critical for ethical wealth creation. And now even Western economies are recognizing the role of trust in an economy. The global financial crisis, highlighted this. I'm fortunate that one of my PhD advisors, Luigi Zingales, has done a lot of work in showing that the global financial crisis was primarily a failure of trust in the economy. Now, why is trust important? Because across time, if philosophers have always thought about how do we create the incentive alignment between private greed and social good. So how do you make sure that private greed, what an individual person wants to do, is something that enables society, benefits society as well, which is not the case when somebody is, a factory is, let's say, producing products by polluting the river. In that case, private greed is actually harming social good. So trust is important actually to enable, private greed is benefiting social good. And that's something which, our ancient thinkers have highlighted, which the Western world is also now starting to recognize. The COVID crisis has also now highlighted the importance of, and the limitations of markets, importance of trust in the economy. Growing the economy or undertaking economic development while respecting the planet. Many of you would have, I think, especially those who might have been in Roorkee, would have been able to see, for instance, the Ganges in Varanasi or in Haridwar, such pure water that the water had become potable during the lockdown, which basically provides of how the Ganges, the water there has become polluted primarily because of industrial effluents coming into the river. So, which illustrates some of the problems with private greed overcoming social good. So the COVID crisis has also highlighted how markets may not function fully, and I think this is important to understand that markets work very well 90 to 95% of the time, but they may not work 5% of the time, times like these. For instance, if markets work perfectly, there would be no shortage of masks. There wouldn't have been any shortage of PPE, protective equipment, of ventilators, etc. Because there would have been some entrepreneur who would have actually produced these, anticipating, a situation like this, albeit with if it happens with a small probability. So this is something which is really, also highlighting the role of markets, that the limitations of markets. So the global financial crisis, together with the COVID crisis, now highlights the role for what I think is dharmic capitalism, which can thereby encourage ethical wealth creation. So there's a very symbiotic relationship between dharmic capitalism and, those of us who are here will understand that dharma, as one of the other key, noble pursuits, as I said, dharma, arth, kam, moksha. So dharma is a very, very profound Sanskrit word that, we Indians understand very well. Duty is a very, 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 inferior proxy to dharma, because dharma has far more connotations than just duty. So when you combine the concept of dharma with markets, actually, and dharmic capitalism, that is what can enable, ethical wealth creation, which is something that is really important. So those of you who go and work in the, in the real world, and those who may actually do research, what you recognize is there is absolutely nothing wrong in wealth creation. Wealth creation is a very noble pursuit, but it has to be, it has to be ethical wealth creation. It has to be by, doing what is called Pareto optimal, which is that you make money, but at the same time you make money by, by catering to the needs for products and services of somebody who's actually not had these products and services. One of the brilliant examples of this is microfinance. Microfinance, which provides loans to the needy. And before I took up this role, for instance, I was a board member on the, member on the board of Bandhan Bank, which is a very good, illustration of ethical wealth creation by helping people, giving them credit at low interest rates, compared to what a money lender would, for instance, charge. The interest rates are about 18-19%. That's because the cost of serving such borrowers is typically larger. But compared to the 200-300% interest rates that a money lender charges, these are much, much lower. So in that process, wealth is created, and, these society is served as well. So overall, what I want to emphasize to the entire, audience is to focus on ethical wealth creation, which is what is the crying need for us. And that is something that sits very well with our, ancient heritage as well. So let me stop there, and let me take questions, and answer those.
So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. In fact, we did share a link to all the participants for asking questions, and there are several questions we have received. Most of them, in fact, some of them were political in nature. We have just sorted them out, and we would be asking questions which are pertaining to your lecture. So I would request Swati Agrawal to ask questions, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't want to, I'm an economist. I have nothing to do with politics.
Right, sir.
Yeah, sir, we understand. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
So, sir, the first question is from our professor Vinay Sharma, sir. He has two questions. The first question is that, do we need to revisit the economic measurement criteria?
I think I would want some more details on the question. What's the context?
Yes, sir. I'll ask Vinay Sharma, sir. Can you please unmute yourself and elaborate on the question?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Very good.
Thank you for addressing us. And the combination of invisible hand and trust is a very important element which you have elaborated upon. So I just wanted to ask on that the current measurement criteria, for example, GDP and the growth perspective and the parameters which you have been including in the measurement of everything. So do we have to think or revisit these elements of measuring the economic growth and all those things?
So, I think your question is a very broad one. Let me answer it in some specific ways. One, see, by the way, there is actually somebody who's requested, saying, can this session be a bilingual one? I'm very happy speaking in Hindi as well. So, साहब का सवाल ये है कि जीडीपी ग्रोथ जो हम जो हम मेजर करते हैं, वो सिर्फ जीडीपी ग्रोथ, उसमें कुछ खामियां हैं क्या, उसको क्या हम उसको इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं और किस तरह उसको और अच्छा और बेहतर बना सकते हैं, तो ये सवाल है। तो इसमें 2-3 मुद्दे हैं जिसमें मैं एक्चुअली रोशनी डालना चाहता हूं। एक तो ये कि जीडीपी ग्रोथ अपने आप में शायद एक पूरक एक स्टैटिस्टिक नहीं है, क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा भी होता है कि जीडीपी ग्रोथ तो हो रही है, लेकिन सोसाइटी में जो है, समाज में इनइक्वालिटी बढ़ रही है, जो असमानता वो बढ़ रही है। तो जीडीपी ग्रोथ के अलावा हमें जो असमानता की जो आंकड़े होते हैं उन पे भी ध्यान देना चाहिए। इसी तरह जीडीपी ग्रोथ के अलावा नौकरियां जो फॉर्मल सेक्टर में बन रही हैं, उस पे भी ध्यान देना चाहिए, क्योंकि जब नौकरियां बनती हैं फॉर्मल सेक्टर में तो उससे असमानता भी कम होती है। और मैं एक खड़ा उदाहरण हूं इसमें, क्योंकि हमारे पिताजी हमारे पूरे कुल में पहले ऐसे व्यक्ति थे जो कि फॉर्मल सेक्टर में जिन्होंने काम किया। हमसे हमारे पिताजी से पहले कभी किसी ने फॉर्मल सेक्टर में काम नहीं किया, और क्योंकि वो फॉर्मल सेक्टर में काम कर पाए, इसलिए हमें वो शिक्षा दे पाए, और जिस शिक्षा के कारण हमें देश सेवा करने का ऐसा एक अवसर मिल रहा है। तो ये एक उदाहरण है जिससे पता चलता है कि जब नौकरियां मिलती हैं फॉर्मल सेक्टर में, तो उससे वो उस परिवार का तो उद्धार हो ही जाता है, लेकिन उसके चलते जो आपका समाज है, समाज का भी काफी विकास होता है। तो जीडीपी ग्रोथ के अलावा इनइक्वालिटी, असमानता पे भी हमें ध्यान देना है, और नौकरियां जो फॉर्मल सेक्टर में बन रही हैं उसमें भी ध्यान देना है। अब यदि साहब का सवाल यदि सिर्फ जीडीपी ग्रोथ पे था, तो उस पे भी मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि जीडीपी ग्रोथ में भी कई बार जो इनफॉर्मल इकोनॉमी में जो गतिविधियां होती हैं, उनका गणना करना जो है काफी मुश्किल हो जाता है। जैसे आप रूरकी के बाहर जाएं तो शायद ऐसा होगा कि वहां पे कुछ ढाबे होंगे, ढाबे में आप चाय पीते हैं या फिर आप मसाला डोसा खाते हैं। तो ये वैसे जो ढाबे होते हैं वो भी इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी करते हैं, आर्थिक गतिविधि वो आर्थिक गतिविधियां करते हैं, लेकिन वो जो आर्थिक गतिविधियां वो एक्चुअली हमारे जो जीडीपी कैलकुलेशन में उसमें आती नहीं है। तो इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर जो है जीडीपी ग्रोथ में, जीडीपी के आंकलन में आता नहीं है। ये एक बहुत बड़ा एक लिमिटेशन है, लेकिन ये भारत में ही नहीं, बाकी जगह भी ऐसा होता है। So I hear now somebody saying that I don't understand that much Hindi, so I'll actually say this in English as well. In sum and substance, what I'm saying is, apart from GDP growth, we also need to be focusing on inequality, because an unequal society is a society that can actually be where there can be other social problems. So apart from GDP growth, we need to focus on inequality. We also need to be focusing on employment in the formal sector. As I was saying, I am a good example of what a job in the formal sector can do. My father was the first person in our family to have a job in the formal sector. As it turned out, I was the first person in my family to ever step into the confines of a college or university. Nobody ever before me even ever went to a college. So and my parents were able to provide for this only because my father had a job in the formal sector. So jobs in the formal sector create economic and social inclusion, and thereby also provide opportunities for reducing inequality. So these are two other measures that we should be following. At the same time, if the question was about some of the limitations of GDP itself, I think it's quite apparent that some of the activities that may be happening in the informal sector, for instance, if you were to step out of the campus, Roorkee University campus, you would find there might be dhabas there where you may go and drink a cup of tea, or maybe have a masala dosa. So those economic activities are really not captured in the calculation, and this is one significant limitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is from Professor Rajat Agrawal, sir. He want to ask his question himself. Rajat Agrawal, sir, can you please unmute yourself?
Very much, sir. Swati, for giving me this opportunity. It was wonderful to hear you that you started from the Chanakya Kautilya Arthashastra and particularly mentioned about Purushartha Chatushtaya, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. I particularly feel that this sequence is very important, and unfortunately, the sequence has changed. Either Arth or Kama is coming first, and Dharma and Moksha is taking the last step. So that sequence is one very important thing that we need to understand the importance of sequence. You particularly mentioned about enabling the market as one of the important factors to revive the economy, and the trust is second. Now, in our case in India, government of India started earlier that Manrega type of schemes, and now direct cash to the hands of the poor. Are these schemes related to enabling the market, or the, you can say, the demand side of the economy, so that if cash is there in the hands of the people, they will be able to better, you can say, create opportunities for the organizations. So how far you feel that taking money from the productive sector of the economy, because money will come from the productive sector, and then you are giving that money to, I will not take that name, but to those people who require money for creation of demand. So the productive sector will also not have money in the long run for their further development and all other activities. So how long you are able to make, say, a sense with this type of system?
Professor Agrawal, thanks a lot. I think I quite agree with you that sequence is quite important as well. Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. And I hope, in your classes, you also advocate to your students the importance of that sequence. By the way, your second question is related to also another question that has come saying about how would the economy revive. There's one more comment somebody has made, that the rural economy is doing very well. Now, urban economy is not doing that well. I think these are all very valid points. See, let me take all these together and give one combined answer. Firstly, the rural economy has started to do well. One of the key changes that the government has done is the APMC Act. Removing the APMC regulations, modifying it, changing the Essential Commodities Act. See, in India, till the APMC Act was there, a farmer couldn't go and sell what he wanted, to wherever he wanted to sell. He could only go and sell it in the mandi, and as a result, the local intermediary, who's called the adatya, would basically end up benefiting at the cost of the farmer. So, apart from the fact that this year the crop is going to be a good one, and which, by the way, we've had good crops, rice and wheat, over many years. In fact, so much so that the surplus, huge surplus, is getting built. But the reason rural economy has started to do well is because we've unleashed another example of governments basically not intervening so much and enabling markets. So we've enabled agricultural markets, which is actually benefiting the rural economy. Now let me come to the specific question about demand, and how is it important for reviving the economy. See, there are a couple of important points that must be remembered here. Firstly, the COVID situation is similar to a war in many ways. What happens in a war is that you don't know when the war is going to end. And so not only households, but even firms typically will say that, I may need, if I have some savings, that saving, I may need it for maybe for future expenditures. In the current case, people may think that I may need it for healthcare expenditures. What if I or some of my or any of my family members become sick? I may need this saving. So instead of going and buying maybe a car or maybe investing in a house, which I can wait for maybe once normalcy returns, I can possibly think about that. I am not going to go and spend in buying, let's say, a car, a washing machine, maybe a 50-inch television, or any of these durable goods. So as a result, what happens is, because of the uncertainty prevailing, consumption of durable goods goes down, and this will go down, even if cash transfers are made, because what will happen is that cash will go and sit as saying, चलो भैया इसको मैं रख लेता हूँ, मुझे जरूरत पड़ सकता है, कल को मान लो किसी की तबीयत खराब हो गई तो उसमें जरूरत पड़ सकता है. तो इसलिए demand for durable goods, indeed will remain muted till the uncertainty, relating to COVID persists. And this actually, research is also showing the same. If you look at the United States, where checks have been mailed to people, those checks have been used primarily for spending on essential items and in particular food. Now, India is different because India has the public distribution system. So instead of mailing checks to people, we've actually given cereals directly, we've given in kind. But in the US, these checks have not been used for, for durable goods. So durable goods consumption has not increased at all. It has just stayed the same. In other words, even when checks have been mailed to people, that has not had an increase in demand for durable goods, precisely because of the uncertainty. Even in India, if you look at the PMJDY balances, the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana balances, they've increased by 80,000 crores since lockdown began. Now, these are PMJDY accounts are accounts that are held by very poor people. Among the poor people, typically the propensity to save is very low. So, 100 रुपया आता है तो कई बार पूरा 100 रुपया वो खर्च कर देते हैं. लेकिन इनमें भी जो प्रधानमंत्री जन धन योजना जो है, इनमें भी करीब 500 रुपए से इनका अकाउंट बैलेंस, पीएमजेडीवाई बैलेंस जो है बढ़ा है. इसका मतलब ये है कि जो गरीब है वो भी कुछ पूंजी बना के रखना चाहते हैं, ताकि कल को यदि जरूरत पड़ जाए तो वो उसका इस्तेमाल कर सकें. तो यदि आप पैसा दीजिएगा तो भी लोग यही सोचेंगे कि इसको मैं रख लेता हूं, बैंक में डाल के रख लेता हूं कि कल को जरूरत पड़ जाएगी, तो इससे डिमांड बढ़ेगी नहीं. इसका मतलब ये है कि जब ये अनसर्टनिटी, जो हेल्थ अनसर्टनिटी है, ये जब अनसर्टनिटी जब कम हो जाएगा, मान लीजिए वैक्सीन आ गया, तो तब सही समय होगा डिमांड पुश देने के लिए. उससे पहले यदि डिमांड पुश देंगे तो आप एक्चुअली आप अच्छा पैसा खर्चा करेंगे, लेकिन उससे आपकी जो आप लाभ चाहते हैं डिमांड में, वो नहीं आएगा. तो ये बहुत ध्यान देने योग्य बात है. ये सिर्फ मैं ही नहीं कह रहा था, मैं एक्चुअली इसको करीब मार्च महीने से मैं कह रहा हूं अपने इंटरव्यूज में. जोसेफ स्टीग्लिट्ज, जो कि नोबेल लॉरिएट है और हमारे युग के बहुत बड़े अर्थशास्त्री हैं, वो भी यही बात उन्होंने कहा है, और कहा बाकी देशों को उनकी सीख भी ली है कि क्यों आप क्यों डिमांड पे कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि इसका तो फायदा होगा नहीं, क्योंकि लोग उसको लेके सिर्फ अपना पूंजी बना के रखेंगे. तो ये मुद्दा बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. मतलब to summarize, what I want to say is that, of course, for reviving the economy, demand is important, but supply side measures are also quite critical. Reform measures are quite critical. India is the only country that has done a bunch of reforms as part of the COVID package to enable greater productivity in the economy, and we've given a lot of liquidity so that firms do not go bankrupt, do not go but demand actually at the right time will be when the uncertainty relating to COVID goes down. There is no doubt in my mind that demand push is absolutely important. It has to be done, but the timing, getting the timing of that right, is also quite critical, so that the money is well spent.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there's one more question. Hello.
That is that do you feel that will there be any possibility India adopting concepts like gross national happiness like Bhutan has? Any remote possibility?
Professor Agrawal, can I request you humbly to actually that we will have Because I'm told there are 200 odd people. We should give others the opportunity also to ask questions.
Yes. Sure. Okay.
Sir, the next
Thank you very
question
much.
is Yes, sir. So the next question is from a student, Rakshit Kumar. He wants to know that in this time of pandemic and economy going down, how hell, and our rating for agencies has gone below as low as minus
Hello.
5%. So how will be able to achieve the target of $5 trillion economy? Furthermore, how can we as a student can contribute towards it?
See, the this year growth is affected, but because of the measures that have been taken by the government and some of the demand side measures that we will take at the opportune moment, growth rates of GDP can be much higher in subsequent years, and as a result we can make up for this lull time. Like if I use a parallel, those of you who follow cricket will understand कि जब बॉल स्विंग हो रही होती है, काफी अनसर्टनिटी ज्यादा रहती है, तो आपको लेफ्ट करना चाहिए, ध्यान से खेलना चाहिए. लेकिन आपने यदि ध्यान से खेला कुछ ओवर और अपने विकेट बचा के रखे, तो एक्चुअली उसके बाद छक्के चौके मार सकते हो आप. तो हम भी वही अभी सावधानी बरत रहे हैं ताकि आगे चल के हम छक्के चौके मारें.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we'll be taking our last question. So he wants to know that it's a student, Krishna Kumar Kishan. He wants to know what is your take on PM proclamation of local to vocal and how would it affect our trade and economic relation with other countries?
Yeah. See, this is basically related to the Atmanirbhar Bharat, focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat. It's important because what COVID has highlighted is that we need to have domestic capabilities. There are times, as I was saying earlier, markets work very well 90 to 95% of the times, but there are 5% of the times, 5 to 10% of the times when markets don't work. And those are times like these when there's a pandemic or possibly there's enemy action, war, etc. Markets may not work very well, and at that times having domestic capabilities, especially in some strategic sectors, is very important, and that is what is really critical. But what is important, and this is something which I've clarified before as well, that Atmanirbharta cannot become a proxy or an excuse for us to be uncompetitive or for us to actually aid protectionism, because I'm sure all of you are you're all very capable students who are studying at the University of Roorkee. You must have come to Roorkee by beating competition. It's like the way Virus says in the movie Three Idiots that if you remember the first scene, he basically puts the applications of those who did not make it. Similarly, you all have made it to to the University of Roorkee after beating a lot of competition, and that is why you are capable. In other words, your capability has been built through competition. That is true for individuals, but it's true for companies, and it is true for the nation as well, that capabilities cannot be built without competition. If we were basically to say that just to do a thought experiment, if we had said that University of Roorkee people will basically just admit people from Roorkee, let's say सारे जो Roorkee वाले हैं उन्हीं को मौका मिलेगा, Roorkee में शहर में जो रहते हैं उन्हीं को मौका मिलेगा. That's an example of protectionism in some sense. So people from other cities will not be able to come. Then what you'll have is, as a result, the not so capable will also get in, and that's what competition is really important. Therefore, to build capabilities and to develop capabilities as well. So Atmanirbharta cannot be built without capabilities, and capabilities themselves cannot be built without competition. Let me take a couple of more questions. Akash, middle class, yes, I'm myself from the middle class. But in our country we have to take care of the poor. We have far more poor people, And as you will know, money unfortunately does not grow on trees. There are, governments also face budget constraints. Shubham Sharma saying, migration, yes, I think couple of important steps that are being taken is, one is the one nation, one ration card, because migrant workers are unable to access the PDS system. And as a result, they cannot get some of the essential items. Once the one nation, one ration card becomes activated, then migrant workers can access actually the PDS shops as well, and that will remove a lot of their vulnerability. The reason migrant workers, a lot of them actually moved back is because of the vulnerability they face. This is something that will help in that process. There's a question about, when whole nation do work 365 days 24/7, countries GDP does not raise significantly. Well, I don't think the whole nation works 365 days 24/7. We have leaves, etc. And lockdown, economic activity could not happen because a lot of people were not going to factories, people were not couldn't travel to work. As a result, a lot of economic activity had to be shut down. That's why the nation's GDP got affected, because many economic activities couldn't be held. For just to give an example, take Mumbai for instance. In Mumbai, the local trains are the most important. People, a lot of people live in the suburbs and they work, downtown. They work in places like Nariman Point, Bandra, etc. If the local train does not run, they cannot go and work in the offices and factories, etc. If labor cannot come to factories or to offices, then obviously economic activity cannot happen, and that is why the GDP got affected because of the lockdown. Yes, privatization. This is a question on privatization from Kashish. So take a look at the chapter in the economic survey that we wrote called Privatization and Wealth Creation. For want of time, I'm not able to answer your detailed question, but take a look at that chapter. Few more questions. Akash, I think I've covered that on middle class. Mansi Chaudhry's fall in the credit rating. No, it's not going to affect the funds, availability of funds, because we continue to be sovereign. We continue to be investment grade, and in fact, a lot of funds have come in the month of June because we continue to be investment grade. We have to ensure that we don't go below investment grade, going forward. So Shovik says that he's come across money lenders who are lending at 200%. But here I must tell Shovik that the government has basically this 3 lakh crore emergency credit, of which about 1,15,000 crores has already been sanctioned, is really tailored towards MSMEs. So about more than 1/3 of the 3 lakh crore credit has already been sanctioned. If you look at it, just to give you a parallel in terms of, again, use a cricket parallel. There are 52 weeks in a year, and let's suppose that 10 weeks were basically already lost because of the lockdown in April and May. But so in 50 weeks, if you have to do 300 lakh crore, that's a run rate of about 6,000 crore per week. We basically have done, in the first few, in this month, just the month of June, we've done 1/3. So if you look at it in terms of the run rate, I think run rate is very good. Yes, anecdotally, there may be some examples of MSMEs having to borrow from money lenders, but overall, a lot of MSMEs have already gotten credit from banks. Abolishing income tax, and I think this is something which requires a lot of thought. There is this theory called modern money theory, which basically it says that the value of money, sovereign money, basically, which is not tied to gold, etc., comes from requiring firms and individuals paying taxes. So this is something which is actually a lot more involved, and a lot macroeconomic implications need to be looked at I don't think any country has done away with income taxes, any large economy, so something that requires thought. So Satyajit Ray says, is the problem in our economy one of demand, not supply? I agree with you right now that it is a demand side problem. So to Satyajit, I would basically say, read the first chapter in volume 2 of the economic survey, especially the second section, which is where we have looked at the slowdown in the economy, and what we show there is that the reason the demand problem happened itself traces back to the financial sector. The bad loans that happened, that were given in 2014-15, 2013-14, and that period, which basically created a lot of bad debt in the economy. Then and willful default, significant amount of willful default. Some of the investigation on these willful default then has created a lot of risk aversion as well in the banking sector. And that led to the banking sector problems, brought down investment, thereby decrease in investment had an impact on growth with a 3 to 4 year lag. That is what we show with the data. The impact of investment on growth is felt with a 3 to 4 year lag. Decline in growth then had an impact on consumption, with a 1 to 2 year lag. So it's really important to understand at the macroeconomic level there are many linkages. So it started with the financial sector, the loans drying up actually and bad debt building up, impacted credit, which impacted investment. Investment that basically lower investment, brought down growth. And then declining growth had an impact on demand. So I agree with you that demand is a problem now, but the genesis of this is from the financial sector problems. So apart from addressing the demand, but I will also refer back to what I was saying earlier about the uncertainty in the economy. So we do recognize the need for a demand side push, but the timing is important. But the financial sector also fixing some of those issues is also important. COVID says, I don't know whether at a time like this, whether, higher taxes is actually is a good idea. Shashank has about development projects. Yes, I think I spoke about the infrastructure pipeline that takes care of of this particular question. I hope my voice was not breaking now. Nikita says my voice is breaking. Were you all able to hear?
Yes, sir. There was some issue in between, but it's fine now.
Okay. Yeah, I think there are many more questions. Unfortunately, I can't take more of them. So, but thanks a lot for all your questions and for your patient listening.
Yes, sir. We are still receiving the question, but we'll mail them to you, and you can answer them as per your convenience. Now, for the thank you notes, I'll ask Shivangi Tripathi.
I can't promise that I'll be able to do that.
That's okay, sir. We understand.
Thank you so much, sir. I, Shivangi Tripathi, on behalf of Department of Management Studies, IIT Roorkee, and the entire college, extend my most sincere thanks to you, Dr. Subramanian, sir, who has spared time from his busy schedule to grace the occasion and share his insights on the present economy and economy post-COVID era. You have given us a brief view on India's past, intercepted by Kautilya's Arthashastra, which strengthens the foundations of our economic development. Your take on significance of roles of ethics and trust in thrusting the country towards sustainability and economic empowerment has given us a definite direction for pluralistic progression. A thoughtful leadership like yours confirms to our beliefs that India will surely come out of any economic dilemma. We are also thankful to Professor Dr. A.K. Chaturvedi, sir, Director IIT Roorkee, for being immensely supportive in initiation of Professor C.K. Prahalad lecture series. I would also like to thank Professor Dr. M.K. Barua, sir, Head of Department of Management Studies, IIT Roorkee, who has been the backbone of this event and has consistently guided us to make it a success. We are also fortunate to be backed by a team of very dedicated and motivated students who have carried out their task with extreme professionalism. I also thank participants in showing their keen interest and enthusiasm and making the session interactive by posing thought-provoking questions. Again, I would like to express my gratitude towards Dr. Subramanian sir for being so congenial and honoring us with your presence. We look forward to more such informative sessions with you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you and wish you all good luck.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.